first, I would like to really express my really gratitude that I'm here and my how to say enthusiasm because here in Bulgaria, what you're doing with the center and what you're doing as an artist is extraordinary. I think without you here, the generation from before would be situation very different. And I many times get energy, inspiration from your work. How if you can do it, we can do it too. So thank you very much also Yara and Luchezar and also Krasimir for inviting me to your project. And I'm sure we will meet again in some kind of other collaborations, maybe in Ljubljana. And I would like to say that I'm a member of Irbin, but I'm also a member of other groups in NSK, like Group of Design Studio, New Collectivism, and I was member of the theater department, School4artists. So basically, I'm a member of the NSK, who is a member of most groups. It's part of my nature, maybe. It's, I have more professions, and I was always interested in, how to say, working with more medias. I was never really completely a studio artist. So, okay, so here you have a photo of the NSK members from the 1987, and this is the group of artists who collaborated here on the Baptism under the Triglav. It was a performance you will see later, which we all collaborated. This is also the portrait of the group. NSK, you see me. I'm younger for about, I don't know, 40, not 40, maybe 30 years. This is a bigger group because NSK, beside the groups, we also have other collaborators, friends who we work together on different projects. NSK was established in 1984 when 3 groups already were active without being together. Laibach, which is the group, the music group Irbin, which was, how to say, established in the same year before, 1983, and also School4artists, the theater group, which was established also in 1983. So in this year, we also create this organogram, and it means that we have been organized as a kind of, I would say, bureaucratic organization. So this is a kind of poetical structure. In that time, it was a time of punk, and many artists, people on the scene were against the idea of state, against the idea of institution. But our position was different. We said we need good institutions. How we can be against institutions if you don't have a really functional one? We understood the institution is very important forum. As Giorgio Agamben would say, how you can be against institution if the language is institution? If you're against the institution of the language, we cannot communicate. For us, it was always a question of what kind of institution. And because we didn't have any art system or art structure, we said to ourselves, let's replace it by our own activity. As you did it here in a way. I mean, you created your center and so on, because there was no structure which would help you, and you have to create your own conditions and your own reality. This is the group most of you know, also the younger generation probably know. It's a group Laibach, which started in 1980 in Parabolic, and they are still active till today. In 2 years, there will be 40 years of their activity, almost like Rolling Stones. No, I'm joking, but they're already, they started in their 20s, and they are like 60. This is our group, Irbin. This is our photo portrait called The Mystery of the Black Square, Mistero del Quadrato Nero. And we have been always accused that we maybe are sympathizing with totalitarianism, with Nazism. So we took a Malevich square and installed it under our noses. Because of different perspective, we are standing in different kind of depthness. The square looks bigger or smaller on different faces. But this was This was our contribution of the some anniversary of the fascism, and we showed it in Munich in some kind of group show. Okay, so I didn't include the photo of theater group because you will see me too much, and this here are just maybe some two photos from a big production we did in Slovenia in 1987, where all groups were involved, and theater was active for 3-4 years, but we already from the beginning we proclaimed the beginning and the end. So in 3 years we went to all the way from the avant-garde to classical. So at the end of this we were playing in Belgrade with, in front of 3,000 or 4,000 people, and next day on the press conference we made a suicide symbolically. We died, drink poison, and we died in front of cameras, and then we created a new theater. So the theater still goes on. I didn't go here to details because it's not that part of the story here. Dragan Živadinov is a member of NSK who comes from basically, his family comes from Vitos Planina. It's interesting, you know. His father he was a Bulgarian soldier who escaped Bulgaria to Yugoslavia. Okay, so this performance was done in Zvezdny Gorod in Moscow. I think it's the play is Illusion. It's called the Parabolic Flight. It was a performance where public and actors were levitating for it's called not levitation, microgravitation, for about 35 to 40 seconds, because this is how they train astronauts. The plane goes up and a free fall down, and then you experience almost non-gravitation. It's called microgravitation. I'm showing this that you will see that all the groups are still active. This is now called Cosmokinetic Cabinet Nordung. The theater group is still active, but I'm not anymore in this because I focus more on Irvin, and I focus more on NSK State, as you will see later on. As I said, I'm also a member of the design studio New Collectivism. I just give one example. This is the poster we did for Tito's birthday. Dan Mladosti, you will understand very well in Bulgarian. It's probably the same, you say almost the same. Not exactly, but it's possible to understand. For you who don't know, in Yugoslavia we had always celebration of Tito's birthday, 25th of May. And every 25th of May there was a big celebration, and the pioneer were bringing a message to the President Tito, and Tito would receive it in the Stadion Yugoslav Army, and this was going on for a long time. It was a cult of personality, and we were critical to any cult of personality, especially it's a problematic when the cult of personality is on the political left, which should be, how to say, more democratic. So what we did, we took a Nazi poster and changed symbols. We exchanged swastika with a star. We exchanged an eagle to the pigeon of peace, and so forth. We win the competition because they like it very much, but they didn't know where it's coming from. So the jury, then some engineer in Belgrade, in Sarajevo, Grujic, discovered where this is coming from, and overnight the jury, who liked it very much, said it's a fascistic poster, but we didn't know it because they didn't tell us. So it's interesting that, and then they wanted to put us on for 5 years in prison. Somehow we had a very good lawyer. It was a huge drama, and media was full of that. Luckily we didn't go to prison because Slovenia didn't want to extradite us to Belgrade because there were already conflict between republics and so forth, not to go to the details. Okay, so here are just some examples of Irvin works, paintings. I am trained as a painter, and I consider myself to be a painter also. These are the works from the series What is Art? Što je iskustvo, was ist Kunst? So, and this is a kind of laboratory where we are developing our language. In these works we are juxtaposing different isms from totalitarianisms, modernism, social realism, in kind of impossible traumatic constellations. As you can see, we are introducing back to frames because the modernism abolished frame, but our professors in Yugoslavia, they were socialistic modernists without frames, but there were other frames. So art can be ideological, even if it is abstract or realistic, doesn't matter. There is always, even there is no frame, there is always a frame. And this is, I would say, the contemporaneity of the art today. It is not anymore in how things look, how things are related, how things are thought, and it's another question is today's art is still visual or not, but that's not going beyond my presentation. Okay, another example of Irving work. It's a deer, of course, but it is always deer on something. Usually it's a deer on the abstract painting. This is a fine painting on the Academy of Fine Arts in Ljubljana, on which Roman Vranek, my colleague, painted this deer. And okay, this is also a cup of coffee and the Alps. And for the last 20 years, we only choose 6 motifs which we are now working, painting through the logic of the icons, but we are not believing in our deers or something like that. We are just using the idea of the icons that the motifs are prescribed, because the biggest problem for us in a group and in contemporary art is unbearable freedom of choice of the motifs, which comes out through the idea, through the change that art is not anymore religious, is not anymore serving the power, and the problem is what to paint and what to do, you know. But we switch this, not what to, but how to do it. And this kind of keeps the group together, and it's solving the problem of unbearable freedom, unbearable pressure of freedom. This is one of our works how we sometimes exhibit in our painting. This is called Irving Live. And here on this, we have been suspending from the ceiling for about duration of the opening. This is in Poland. It's called Zamek Ujazdowski. Here, I'm not there. It's Zbigniew Libera because I was doing something else. Zbigniew Libera is a special hanged guest here, so, okay. Okay, I'm not going now to the really big production of Irving because it's quite complex, because we are together 33 years. You can imagine what can 5 people do together, because when we calculate this, it's over 150 years of activity, isn't it? If you put 5 people working together 30 years, 33 years, it's quite a long period. So, but I just give you a little glimpse of that, and working in Yugoslavia and Slovenia, we ask ourselves a question. What does it mean to be an artist in Slovenia and Yugoslavia? What does it mean to be an artist in the Eastern Europe? And we find out that nobody could really work such things for us, so we have to organize ourselves. And we started to think about East Europe as a territory, as a kind of, first we didn't want to move to the West. We were invited to move to New York, but we know that if we move to New York, maybe we'll be okay, but maybe we're just another immigrants there, you know, and we will meet less interesting people in New York than we can meet now in Ljubljana or in Sofia and so on. So we decided to stay, but if we stay, we have to change our conditions of production and so on. So when everybody went on the West, we went to Russia. In 86, my wife and I, we organized a big trip to Russia, because we heard about some interesting artists in Leningrad. So why I'm showing this map, this black dinosaur here, it's basically what we consider from Slovenian perspective Eastern Europe. So it's Russia, all socialist countries, part of the Warsaw Bloc, and Yugoslavia. Of course, without Greece and Turkey, who are not part of the socialistic, were not part of the socialistic bloc. And we find out that all this kind of black spot with a great potentiality is not really on the Western Museum, is not in narration, in the story. So we started to work on this. We published a book that I make exhibition Capital, in which we raise this question about Eastern modernism. Because our idea was, if people, artists, were working in different political, cultural, and social circumstances, this art should be different even when it looks similar. That was our kind of... And plus something, our idea, I mean, then we heard many stories. Now we are finally coming together, East and West, and we were the same, we were doing the same things. And for us, this was completely unproductive, because if you are doing the same thing, what we should then talk about? I mean, what is interesting is to talk about the difference, about different experience. And we saw such a potential in that we had in Yugoslavia conceptual art for so long without a market. So in America, conceptual art, which was also painful for Lucy Lippert and maybe some others, went to the market immediately. Almost, not exactly immediately, but very, very, in a very short period. And Stilinovic and others, and Todosijevic, and also in Moscow, people were doing conceptual art because the life, okay, Yugoslavia, the life was still cheap, you know, you can survive on very little, you didn't need to sell to buy, as Stilinovic was always saying. And we had this kind of also a part of utopian experience, you know, so it was not only negative. I mean, depends where you have been, you know. So, what was for us a very important change? Our important change was where we were invited by Victor Miziano and others in Moscow to participate in the project Apartment Art International to question or to reflect what this apartment art would mean today for others. So they invited us to do something in Moscow, and we, of course, by the fact that it's possible to show in the gallery, that you can do maybe already public events, we thought to do something in the private apartment only would really be total out of context and nostalgia. And then we proposed there that the whole NSK would move to Moscow. We didn't move all, but a big part of, and for 1 month open our embassy, Irvin NSK embassy, and insist on discussion questions, how the West sees, how the East sees the East, how we see ourselves after these changes, what we have in common, how we will accept our past, what is the experience of what was called communism, which I think it was state capitalism, that's not only me. So, but we have to deal with our past, not to suppress it, but learn and take it as our heritage. And you know, we were joking, but it was partly true. We said, together with Russians, we are over 160 million. Irvin, not Slovenian. We didn't have this nationalistic idea, but it was a joke, because we know that we need allies. You know, we cannot really survive on ourselves. So we wanted to come in contact with people who had the same but similar experience, and that we can discuss it and learn something and make alliance, the pact. So this is the group. Here we are during the signing of the Moscow Declaration. In this, so in this Moscow Declaration, we exactly stated more precisely and more, how to say, thoughtfully as all issues I mentioned before. So after that, we also published a book, NSK Embassy Moscow, Posolstvo Moskva, How the East sees the East, in which we reflect. We always do this at the end of the project. We are publishing publications which are part of the project. Okay, we came back and we said, okay, the experience of the Moscow was great. The embassy functioned very well. Said, if you have an embassy, why we don't have a state then? Why you don't create a state? So it was not that we created a state and opened the embassy. It was vice versa. It was retro, in a way, you know. And we come also with the idea of the passport. The same year, 1992, when we were in Moscow, we print the passport. How we print the passport? We persuade the Minister of Inner Affairs that we need a passport for best quality from the state printery, and he was somehow sympathetic to our, he likes our activity, and we had a chance to pay and get a passport printed in the state printery. Otherwise, we could not get this special embossment, this kind of numbers, perforation. This was only reserved for the state. So, okay, at that time, we also were addressed from Tokyo, curators to participate on one of first online exhibition, the internet At that time was still very much text-based. As you all remember, it was usually text underlined with a blue underline, and you go through the text to another text. There was a lot of text, and there was no images, or very few, because the data transit was really slow. What we did then, we created NSK Electronic Embassy Tokyo. Basically, we created kind of architecton planet which floated somewhere in space, in the mental space, however you want, and with a different department. So basically what we did, we switched NSK's hymn you saw in the beginning to the space. So NSK started to move, so started to get its suprematism. We understood ourselves as a kind of body of suprematism, So, but I can explain this later. So you could enter here, you could go to different departments, confession rooms, you can go to immigration office, you can go to music rooms, the libraries and so on, and really function. So basically this was before the second life, but we never understood this as a second life. We always say this is our first life, what we really live, So, so here, how it looks, you will go to different departments and so forth, and you enter and so on. So we get a lot of attention. Many people started to apply for the passport, and we get citizens from Japan, we get it from Canada, South Africa, Germany, Reykjavik, all over. Our citizens, you see it, are basically around all the world. We have them from Iran, Bulgaria, of course, here are sitting many of them. Okay, so in the 93 we were invited to Berlin, to Volksbühne, which is, as you, for some of you know, the very left theater related to Rosa Luxemburg and Brecht. Here we did a presentation of all NSK live here in theater, and the Germans could only enter through if they would get one-day visa, or they could also enter with the German passport, but we were stamping NSK stamp in the German passport. So that was the only way. The idea was, when you go to another culture, you are passing the border. During the war, we come to Sarajevo 2 times for some project. This was the second time, and everybody was taking part, wanted to take part of the land, so we did it too. And we occupied, of course symbolically, but also in the real sense for some time, National Theater in Sarajevo. And inside the Sarajevo for 2 or 3 days there were live concert discussions and so on. We installed the local internet, and many Sarajevo people applied for passport. In this situation we were only giving away diplomatic passport, because diplomatic passport was the passport which helped people to travel. Some people start to use it. At the end, I will also, or maybe in the middle, will also show you the video of somebody, of some artist who could travel with it, who managed not to, who didn't, he couldn't enter with Bosnian passport to some country, but the NSK passport helped him to enter. So, okay, can you imagine these people were under the siege? This was 1995. It was still war, and it was basically our answer at that time was that we are not going to Belgrade. We were invited to Montenegro, but we said we don't want to be a factor of normalization. We went to Sarajevo because we thought it's the right place to be. So, okay, so every state, there is no state without army. Of course, the state without army is a joke. So we didn't want to be a joke, so we had to somehow get army too, So, and here it's our first. I think Yara was present in Tirana. This is our first, I would say, NSK army, and the second one of then we also this connected with Yara curating the show. Okay, so the Prince of Montenegro, Prince Nikola, he said, we don't have, we have army Yugoslav, but it's not our army. He said, I think that the Montenegrin army will be composed from Montenegrin police. And this is the first official not official, but appearance of the Montenegrin army, which is basically the Montenegrin police. This is UCK, the Liberation Army of Kosovo, which for such project we always needed quite high connection. Here was General Čeku, who became also Prime Minister. He kind of helped us to get them. And this is we did in Tbilisi. We get 100 soldiers, and we write. Each of them has a ribbon with Malevich cross, and we write on the hippodrome "Was ist Kunst." You know, but every state must also have churches, different religious groups, you know, and so on. I mean, what is the? I mean, and not only one. So this is a procession with Irving painting in Graz, and the guy who's carrying the painting. I mean, this is the proof that this is an icon. Of course, later on we see, because we are doing this in. This is important. This guy is a priest, but he's also a curator for new media art, and he's part of experimental program of Catholic Church to bring contemporary art, to bring art back to people, to bring contemporary art to people, to connect church and people with contemporary art. Interesting, you know. It's not many people know about this project. It's going on in many places now. Okay, this is in Skopje. It's a Orthodox course. He was a bishop at that time of non-recognized, I think, Macedonian church, autokephal, or no, autonomous, or I don't know how to say. Okay, now we are coming to the situation which became strange, because we find out that we have a lot of money on NSK account. How we have so much money there? I mean, of course it's good to have money, but also when you have to, when you don't know exactly, you know, you see there might be something wrong, maybe there's a problem, you know. And then we find out why. Why we have so much money is because so many applications come from Nigeria for NSK passport. How it works is like this. You get application, you pay 24 euro, then you send application with confirmation that you pay on the bank. You send it by post to Slovenia. It's how it works before. Now we have more sophisticated methods, but that time was like this. So we find out on our account about 20,000 euro in a very short period of time. And then we find that this is coming from mostly Lagos and partly Ibadan, Nigeria. It looks that some hype was produced about that, and we started to see that some letters were coming and so on. And there were many letters sent to Slovenia. You see, they would like to have a Slovenian passport for 24 euro, or Slovenia is saying, okay, there's the difference. Slovenia is a republic, and NSK is kind of cultural project. They were not aware that state is a cultural project too, you know. So that's what by Hobbes, you know. So that's another story. So there were hundreds and hundreds of letters from Nigeria to embassies, to consulates, to Slovenian Ministry of Culture, to us, and so on. But it's what's interesting. The state was always very nice to us. They never dared to interfere. Even one minister for foreign affairs, he proposed that Slovenia should make a diplomatic relation with NSK. He almost lost the job. His boss, Prime Minister, said, "Fuck off, you know. I mean, you should not do this, you know. That's, you know, this is a true story. I have a video of that. If somebody will be interested, you know. It was everything here. So, and then, you know, we were, because so many people asked for passport from Nigeria, we were afraid that these people could get to troubles. And of course, we were in this dilemma, what to do? To stop it or not to stop it? We said, why, if everybody can get it, passport, why people from Africa cannot get it? The only thing is we must inform them that they know what does it mean, that this is not official document for travel, that this is something, you know, they can get troubles with. They could use it for, I don't know, fun or whatever, but for doing through their own fantasy, as it is the logic of the passport, use it according to our fantasy. And then we find out that is so many applications come from London, precisely Peckham. Peckham is a part of London where many African population live, especially from Nigeria. So we opened in the ICA London. They were so nice, and they give us one floor for a few days, and we arranged meetings by telephone, by however we could. And the whole family, as you see here, were coming for passport, to pick out the passport. And then we were explaining, we did film on this, that this passport is not for travel, they can get to travel, that if they want, we can give you money back, but nobody wants money back. Everybody said, one woman said, I know it is not a state yet, but maybe it will be one day. This beauty of promise, of something, you know, what could happen, something what could appear. And one said, no, nobody give to the black people passports. Even they cannot travel to South Africa and so on. So here was the full family. I mean, it was really, really very touchy. It was, you know, here you would have this. You saw what Agamben is writing as Homo sacer, people with no rights, with no status, with nothing, you know. And we get thousands of letters. I'm poor as a goat. I would like to be citizens. I would like to contribute, and so on. And there was a myth that people I will tell you now. The myth started that black people from Nigeria are living very well in NSK state, which must be somewhere in Europe, you know, maybe kind of socialistic Andorra on the north of ex-Yugoslavia, I don't know. And then we also find out that there was also a fake consulate in Egypt. So our friends, the hackers who are members of NSK, destroy their server. You know. So it was a cyber war, you know. And then, because if it started there, you know, in Lagos, we decided, here where we go to the point where, to the original place where this misunderstanding happened. You know, most of these kind of tricks, or a lot of tricks, I don't know, scams, are coming from Nigeria. I mean, probably, maybe you got some of them. Yeah, you all got them. So we kind of became, we thought maybe we unwillingly became kind of scammers because people believed that they could travel, they could do. So we feel responsible, so we travel to Nigeria. This is Lagos, you know, time for a new stay. Some say you can find happiness there. There in Lagos, we established, in the Center for Contemporary Art, there was a conference on the topic. And can you imagine, you come to Lagos and you meet tens and tens of people who have your passport. You know, you are a local project there. You know. The story is Nigerian. Just to finish on the way that we managed to inform them through being in Lagos, putting in different media, putting in every passport a paper, it's not for travel, it could be dangerous, that it kind of stopped these flocks. Then this poster which we had there, you find that there, we also bring to Moscow with the first appearance. We just started to translate this poster, пришло время для нового государства, something like that. I don't know if I say it right. So it's time for a new state. I think in the Russian is this homonym. It means state and just state.
It sounds very poetic, the second half of...
Okay. So, you know, when we did it in Moscow, you know, the director of this is a museum of modern art.
Moscow Museum.
Moscow Museum, yeah, Moscow Museum, yeah, I suppose to say. He comes from vacation and he freaked out because Victor Miziano was the curator of this show, and Victor said, no, we should not make it small, we should make it big. And the guy, he freaked out, he said, people called me, they don't agree with it, you know, because it's, not people didn't call him, politicians called him. He said, it's not good because it's covering 2 windows. And there's the law in Moscow, you cannot cover 2 windows together. Give me a break, so, and he teared it down and said, oh, you tear it down, you're making a censura, what I can do. But then I come next day, and they wanted to install it in the courtyard. So they would not be the bad guys, they still hang it, but, you know, I said, this poster was meant to be for outside, for the really communication. Just over my dead body can be hanged inside. I don't agree. I called my friend in Ljubljana. We had a small talk, and it's still. Then one media published it on portal, but they have to take it down because they get calls, and it was taboo topic in Moscow at the time. In the media, people knew, people were talking. Yeah. Only media which published it, I think, was American Media Art Forum, some note. And, okay. Then we were traveling, and this is in Novi Sad, and we write Vreme as a novo državu, which means the same. And of course, we went to Kosovo, Pristina. We said Koha Prenješete Tiri, which is also in their language. And I was people were interviewed, on television, and one guy said, "I don't understand. We just got a new state. Why do you have a new one?" So, yeah. We also did it. This is Elephant and Castle in London. Here we did huge 16 meters. And in Slovenian, on demonstrations against neoliberal capitalism, we appeared with this. As they asked, why are you protesting? He said, for personal reasons, or something like that. So it was a performance inside a political event. Okay, so what's interesting is then that NSK state citizens started to organize themselves. So when we created NSK State in time, we didn't know what's going to happen. We did it for ourselves. There was not the idea that we create a big community of something. We just said, this is something what works for us. Maybe some people are interested to get passports and so on. But then what happened? In Greece, one young designer, Haris Kararis, opened his page, NSK State. And people started to participate, and then we find this website, and we said, this is perfect thing for NSK, that we don't need our page that is done by the citizen. This is exactly the spirit of our work, our project. So around this site, people started to gather and to write text and to participate, and they started to create also, as you will see, their own works of art. So this is NSK, this is from Reykjavik group. So they repeated NSK Garda pieces, so people started to understand NSK State as their own. They started to identify or use humoristically the culture. It was not about, because it was not about just fan club. It was because these people some were artists with their own practice, but besides that they were doing this, or they were like serious, I would say, people involved in theory, and they were doing some special event like symposiums and so on. So this is Avi Pichon. He's a curator from Tel Aviv, and he did this, kind of Jewish German kind of combination, So there was one guy, Christian Narunga, from Nigeria, and he said this: "I'm an NSK citizen." That's his work, kind of body, He's a citizen. Maybe looks as Irvin. I don't know what. But there is a lot of such production. I only, because my line is longer, so I didn't want to go to details. We have now about, in our collection, we have about 150 of these works, And so sometimes we appear on different exhibitions. This was Taipei Biennale, when instead of our work we sent works of citizens. So this was, no, this was not in the Taipei. This was in the exhibition of Peter Weibel in Karlsruhe. But in the Taipei Biennale we were doing something similar as well, just a year before. Okay, so we find out that citizens are quite active, that their citizens are using the state. So we were interested in the question, how they see the state, what citizens would like to do from it. Are they interested to use it in a more fully way? So we asked a few active citizens if they would be interested to do a congress and to ask this question. And then a group maybe of 3, 4 meet and organized, conceptualized, did the concept for the first NSK Citizen Congress in Berlin. Irvin was kind of initiator, and we also find the money, of course. We were responsible in that sense. And in Haus der Kulturen der Welt in Berlin, it took place in 2010. So for 3 or 4 days, delegates come from about 30 delegates came, and delegates were selected on the basis of their propositions, what questions they would raise in the Congress. So they come from Africa, Asia, America, all places, you know. So, and they were discussing, but we, NSK member, we didn't have right to follow the discussions. We only facilitate everything. At the end, they tell us the result. So, and after that, situation even got more interesting because NSK citizens started to organize their own NSK rendezvous in different cities in the world. This is the first rendezvous. I think it's in Lille or Lyon. No, Lyon. And they organized lectures, discussions, screenings, discussions what the state can be today. So this idea of state in time started this question: what kind of state we want? They want. And then this is in New York, James Gallery, the group of New York NSK department organized also some lectures, discussions, exhibitions. This is also one of them, you know. Lately they also start to do Biennale. So this was completely organized by themselves. This was the first folk art Biennale, which took part in Leipzig, Germany, and it was exhibition was visited by 20,000 people because it was a gallery weekend in Leipzig. So it was huge, you know. It was like really a big thing, you know. So 100 maybe and 10 exhibitors, you know, with big works, you know. So maybe I even have one. Okay, this is just the beginning. It was just one part. So it was a big hall, you know, with all this, you know, and, all organized by citizens. So that's a group of organizers and some artists and so on. And, yeah. So you see, at the beginning we have a Tatin Tower, by coincidence, but they are NSK members, but here are already citizens. So this is new. And last year was also NSK Folk Art Biennale in Ireland, in the north part of Ireland, not Northern Ireland. So here it's not really because of the resolution, and but just I think explain. This is a chronology of events resulting from autonomous actions of citizens of NSK state who have contributed significantly to shaping the NSK state in time. So it means the NSK state became as an artifact which started to live its own life, independent from us who created it. So basically, we lost control, and we wanted to lose control because that's the beauty of the work. This unpredictability really, it's interesting because I think that here is some formal innovation. It's happened because of probably so many people involved for so long. It's not anymore just about conceptual decision, what people will do. It's not about fan club, it's just about that these people are really doing event. In New York, people are making money, they're producing bonds, they partly finance our Biennale. Partly is a small part, not big, but important part. Our NSK Pavilion was financed by bonds created by the NSK State Reserve from New York. Yes. And these are the people who are also working, one of them is working he's the chief of information system from Bloomberg. Okay, so this is, now we are in the year 1993 when NSK state was formed a year before. We returned from Moscow. Moderne Galleria Slovenia, in fact, asked us if we would participate in the first appearance of Slovenia at the Venice Biennale in the Slovenian Pavilion, which was on Ateneo San Basso, which is a church on the San Marco Square near Piazza dei Leoncini. And we said we cannot do that. We cannot represent a nation. We believe that artists should never represent a nation without a reflection. But what we can do is we can come as a guest state. Zdenka Badovinac was the commissioner, and she said yes. Now we are switching to the year 2000. 17. The typography is the same, just red as the Biennale is, you know, and we are there again, you know, of the NSK State Pavilion, and here we were commissioners. We like the word commissars, you know, but in Slovenia we say commissar, but in English it's commissioner. I'm joking a little bit. No? We also made a connection with migrants who are living in Italy and that region, because our idea was that we will replace the position. Now the migrants will be in position, usually migrants in position to ask for passport, but now they will issue them. Now they'll be in power in this position, and they were also involved in the project that they would answer 4 questions about cultural heritage of Europe and their countries, which was displayed in a special place, all installation by Ahmed Agoud, who was not the artist of the pavilion, but he was basically, he made a display of the idea of the curators, how this should be done, how this should function. So the people would go through special room on the podium, which is for 22 degrees lifted, where you get a very strange feeling of that you are losing your balance. And it's metaphorically also speaking about the difficulty which migrants have by traveling through all countries, coming to, maybe are not coming to the final destination they want to come. So you enter to this kind of rabbit hole through the curtain, and then you are like this, see. These are all the NSK officers who were working some of them who were working in the pavilion. So you see, and then you go through it. So you go down the stairs, you come quite high, but you don't know, because you don't see the contextual space inside why you are like this. It's a strange feeling, you know. And here it's a table which is also a trampoline where you can apply for an NSK passport if you wish so, or you just pick up information. By the way, here are newspapers from Venice. And then here you apply for the passport, and then if you apply for the passport is made, your photo is made, and you are called by your name, and then it's a passport officer on the top, like in heaven, or maybe it's Kafka way of that he's distant. As your interpretation, they bring a special stairs, and you go up, and you get the passport, and they congratulate you for that. Okay, so now, now I would like also to show you just. I think it's important to see if I find this, but I will.
The whole point of the Venice Biennale is for countries across the world to have their own national pavilion in which to proudly present the work of one of their artists. But the notion of art belonging to nation states is becoming an increasingly anachronistic concept for many artists and curators, some of whom have set up alternative pavilions, such as NSK State, an imaginary country which we're all welcome to come along and join, although they have made it a bit of an uphill struggle. This is a state without rules or regulations, rights or responsibilities. Although citizens do need to get themselves a passport, you've got to do all the boring admin stuff and hand over your fee to a passport officer who, in this instance, is a migrant seeking a European passport. So, in a way, the power dynamic has been turned on its head. You then go up this moving stair to an elevated office where you come along and hopefully pick up your authorized passport. Thank you very much.
Okay, so now just for this occasion, we also published a newspaper in which, in this newspaper, we apologize for modernity. NSK State apologized for Western colonialism. I mean, nobody did, so we did it, you know. It's a very Christian or Catholic gesture, you know, Christian gesture, you know. Humorous was also true. And then, of course, for the deeper understanding, Jeda Krecic, the philosopher and publicist from Ljubljana, he edited a book the final countdown, Europe refugees and the left, which was also our kind of catalog. And this is the critical book. It's critique of left, from the left of the left. Let's put it this way. Why the left cannot do anything about it. And mostly there are East European and some Indian kind of writers, you know. So it's about mostly, as you recognize, Lacanian circle, the Ljubljana guys, you know, and around, you know, Kretić, Žižek, Dolar, Budin, Zagreb, and so on. Giri is from India. And then we did like this, that we parallelly, you know, which is strange, but we open also the 4 days later, or maybe a week later, we open also NSK State Pavilion in Vienna. So the parallelly we were running 2 pavilions. In Vienna, there were other artists involved, Anna Yermolaeva, she was also here, as I understand, and also another artist, I've forgotten, but I remember from, she comes from Miran. They made, they meet with different migrants and in Vienna, and they had some questionnaire, and one of the questionnaire was their most important, the most beloved artwork, you know, of the West or something. And they made copies of this, and these people could take these works home. At the same time, it was possible also to get a passport there, as in Vienna, and Žižek was on the tour with us, so he also had a lecture, you know, and of course, when Žižek appeared, many people were interested in it. So we made a kind of triangulation, in a way, that from Ljubljana, we of course invited Zdenka, which is very known in the art world. Žižek is beyond that, you know, he's basically probably the most known Slovenian, and he's a great philosopher, and a little bit added by NSK and Irvin, you know, so, and we all directed in one point, you know, so, we were really grateful to all special curators, Ahmed Ogut, and everybody in the team. This is basically our last project of the State in Time, and hopefully we can repeat it in 4 years in some other form, not every 2 years, because we are superpower not only in symbolical sense, not through the capital. So I would like also now for the end, before we go to some maybe comments and questions, to show you just a short video. It's maybe 2 minutes, to see how our state can be sometimes useful.
Pasoš, NSK diplomatski pasoš. 96. godine uz pomoć nekih prijatelja iz Švedske ja sam pozvan na veliki festival 9 zmajevih glava u Južnu Koreju, u Seul, grad Chungju. Bilo je vrlo komplikovano nabaviti vizu za Koreju. Zemlja malte ne u ratu, nema ambasade korejske. Ja sam javio organizatorima da dolazim, ali da ih molim da mi oni na aerodromu obezbijede vizu i da me sačekaju na aerodromu. Uspio sam nekako nabaviti kartu avionsku, Sarajevo, Beč, Pariz. Iz Pariza 12 sati letio sam do Seula i konačno stigao u Seul. Bilo je to za mene jako izazovno, iz rata doći u sredinu koja je u miru i koja je dio mojih snova, daleko istočne kulture i tako. Prolazeći policijsku kontrolu, u jednom momentu dvojica policajaca rekli su mi: stanite, pođite sa mnom u policijsku kancelariju. Ja sam pomislio, Bože moj, šta je? Gledali su moj pasoš, kažu: vi, gospodine, nemate Schengen, vi nemate korejsku vizu, vi ne možete ući u Koreju. Ali, gospodine, ja imam šengensku, francusku vizu. Ja nisam nikakav kriminalac, ja sam umjetnik pozvan u Koreju. Ništa mi ne znamo, vi nemate vizu, mi ćemo vas odmah deportovati nazad u Pariz. Izmučen ratom, izmučen tim putovanjem, ja sam ostao bez ikakvog argumenta. Ne znam šta da im kažem. Oni su razmišljali kako da me deportuju, u dogovarali se i u tom momentu ja se sjetim, pa pobogu ja imam pasoš NSK iz Ljubljane. I ja izvodim taj pasoš i kažem, evo i ovo je moj identitet, izvolite pogledati. Policajci čim su vidjeli pasoš i na njemu na korici ovo diplomatski pasoš, ustuknuli su i sabrali se, počeli nešto diskutovati između sebe, da bi nakon 10 minuta prišli i rekli, gospodine, oprostite, molim vas, mi smo pogriješili, što niste rekli da imate diplomatski pasoš? Pozvali su dvojicu policajaca koji su uzeli moj prtjer i na glavni ulaz uveli u selu.
I just show you a segment, some selected things to make this kind of narration. And in the 80s, NSK, as I said, which was more organization, it was our community where we discuss art, which was kind of our safe field where we could survive economically, conceptually, and so on. And we always said at that time, you know, because we were using this method of over-identification, we are state artists, socialistic artists representing socialistic Yugoslavia. And Yugoslavia was saying, you are not, we don't want you. But we said, but we are, we feel this way. And when Yugoslavia fell apart, Slovenia arose, different nationalisms came with it, you know, and of course, at that moment we have to create our own state to continue to be a state artist, but in this case, of our own state. And here I finish my story, and if there is any questions or something, I will be glad to answer. Ask us this question, but we didn't want to. Now we tell just how much Slovenia gave. I mean, as you know, you're always obliged to tell what is the public money, but what is the private money, you don't need to tell. Yeah. So